Hey everybody, it's Jeff Hansen. We're back. We're talking BYU football. Training camp starts in just a couple of days, but there's something else we have to talk about before training camp officially begins and we go into full focus mode on what's going to come in this upcoming season. Biggest thing we need to talk about? This hat. Check this out, ladies and gentlemen. Little patch on the side, my guy Banter. Dustin over at Banter Brand has done it again. This is maybe the cleanest BYU. I don't get any of the revenue. This isn't some influencer thing. This is just a clean hat. I'll drop a link to it. Dustin's taking pre-orders. Should you feel interested, and you can go get your pre-order. This hat right here, it's my favorite BYU hat I have ever owned. But the other thing that we're going to talk about, the more important thing, Semi Taulanga committed to Utah yesterday. There was a lot of optimism that he would probably pick BYU. There was some thought that maybe he had even silently committed to BYU. He's going to Utah, and BYU is left without a defensive tackle in their recruiting class right now. This has been a theme. It's been a problem. Talked about it, I don't know, last week, a couple weeks ago, how the defensive tackles is my biggest question mark on the team. And that's my biggest question mark of the future. BYU just can't seem to get anything going. But that's a whole thing that we could talk about. That could be a whole video about the why, the concerns, the strengths, weaknesses, all that good stuff. We're going to take a different approach today, and we're going to talk about this before the season starts because it's going to change as the season goes on. It's one of my favorite things to do, the assistant coach recruiting power rankings. Anybody who knows anything about recruiting, Kalani's not the guy who's knocking on doors, visiting high schools, talking to kids in their homes. That's all done really at the position coach and coordinator level. So let's go through it and let's power rank BYU's assistant coaches as things stand right now, where things are at, where things are going, who's the best, who's the worst, all that good stuff. Okay, here we go. Number one, Fesi Sitake has got to be considered the strongest recruiter on BYU staff. Every single class, it seems like he pulls a guy like Cody Epps, JoJo Phillips, LaMason Waller in this class. He's always got guys that are kind of outside of that BYU mold, and then he continues to convert with guys like Puka Nacua out of the transfer portal, Cody Hagan out of Corner Canyon, Dominique McKenzie out of St. George. These are guys that maybe are in that traditional BYU recruiting pool that are coming back to BYU, whether it be via the portal or whether it be via high school. Fesi Sitake has a really, really strong wide receiver group, and he continues to do really, really well. He's right now, he's my top recruiter on staff. Okay, that's easy. Number two, Jay Hill, I think continues to prove that he is very, very good on the recruiting trail. You go back to Falatau Satuala, obviously that was a big deal for Jay Hill. He's also got the eval skills, guys like Tommy Prasis, who are probably going to, if he's not on the two deep, he's going to be making an impact on special teams this year. Jay Hill has done a phenomenal job. I don't think much needs to be said. We're going to breeze through these top five guys because I think these guys are going, they're going really well. Everything's going really good, and then we'll kind of get into some of the nitty gritty maybe on the bottom half of this list. Okay, number three, hardest job at BYU. The cornerbacks coach, and Gennaro Guilford continues to do very, very good things. Most recently, it's Trey Alexander, it's Jonathan Cabea. These are guys from outside of the state of Utah, outside of BYU's recruiting pool, that had Power 4 options, legitimate Power 4 options, committable offers, all that crap. These were legitimate players that chose BYU over big-time offers from somewhere else. That's a great sign. That's a good thing. Gennaro Guilford continues to be maybe the most unheralded and underrated coach on BYU staff. Okay, number four, again, breezing through these because the top 5-6 guys are doing really, really well. Number four, Kelly Papinga. I mean, look at the edge rushers, right? Sani Tuala, Ephraim Asiata. In this class, guys like, Ulavai Fatuli. There's been a lot. And it's not just Kelly Papinga. Sione Pua, he certainly has a role there. Jay Hill has a role there. Justin Enna's played a role as well. But Kelly Papinga, that position group and the things that he continues to do on the recruiting trail, he's exactly who we thought he was when he came back to BYU from Boise State and from Virginia. Kelly Papinga's always been one of the best recruiters that BYU has had, dating back to when he was here with Bronco Mendenhall. That continues to be true. He could have a big week this week if Nusi Tamoipeau out of Westlake High School chooses BYU. K-Pop has done a great job. Okay, number 5 and number 6, a couple of new guys. Kevin Gilbride, the tight ends coach, hasn't coached a down yet in a formal game, but he has done very, very good things on the recruiting trail. It started with Blake Bryce, who had a number of Power 4 offers and chose BYU. He's actually the lowest rated. Well, that's not true. He's the second lowest rated tight end in BYU's class. Jackson Doman, who doesn't have maybe the exhaustive offer list that Blake Bryce has, but Jackson Doman is the highest rated tight end of the class. Just oozes potential. Big time future for Jackson Doman. I think he's just starting to become the player that he can become. He's gonna have a big senior year. And then Tucker Kelleher out of Georgia. I mean, again, Kevin Gilbride getting out of the traditional BYU circles to go find guys that can play in his offense and his scheme the way he wants a tight end to play, that can play right away. That's big. And then number 6, TJ Woods, the offensive line. It's been strong. It's been good. It can get better. I love Andrew Williams. We talked about him in this class. But it's the results. I remember talking about Jay Hill on this channel a few months ago, I guess maybe a year ago, and he had just missed on guys like Davis Andrews and Cash Dillon. But the results were really good. Not the results. The process was really good. The feedback I was getting, really, really positive. It's kind of the same thing right now with TJ Woods. Really, really positive feedback. If he lands a guy like Austin Pay or an Aaron Dunn or both, TJ Woods is maybe the best recruiter on staff because he'll have a heck of a resume for this class, the class of 2025. So great things coming here. Okay, now we get into the bottom half, and it starts to get a little bit different. Justin Enna has been good. He's my number 7 right now. He's been fine. He hasn't been spectacular, but he's been fine. Guys like Tyler Payne, big time additions. I think the linebackers are fine. I'm not worried about the linebackers. Yeah, maybe there's some meat left on the bone that BYU could have got some other guys, but I'm not overly concerned about the linebacker position. Number 8, and maybe a little surprising to some people, I've got Aaron Roderick. Look, we know about the quarterback situation, what it is today. It is what it is. I do think A-Rod has had some success recently. I've talked about it a lot. I really, really like McKay Hillstead. I think McKay is a dog. I know some of the programs that were after him in the portal. He came to BYU. A-Rod deserves credit for that. And I love Nolan Keeney in this class too. We've had whole videos on Nolan Keeney. I think A-Rod deserves some credit. He's still in the bottom half, still number 8, still not great, still not where you want him to be, but he's not in the very bottom of the basement. I think A-Rod has done some good things of late. Number 9, Harvey Younga. I really like what Harvey does. Guys like LJ Martin, guys like Cale Breslin. It's great. I mean, Harvey gets one guy every class that is very good and is a difference maker. I'd like to see more from a running backs coach. When I look at a running backs coach, I want to see, there's only 1 or 2 running backs you're going to bring in a class, right? I want to see a running backs coach who's very actively involved on the recruiting trail with offensive linemen, with tight ends, who's making himself bigger than the running backs coach. And I don't know that we see a whole lot of that from Harvey Younga. He gets his guys. He gets some really good running backs. Cale Breslin's the real deal in this class. But I'd like to see him be a little bit more active, especially locally, where his name carries a lot of weight. He's kind of a big deal. And then number 10, the last coach for me is Shoni Pua. We've talked about it. 18 months ago, he took the job at BYU. And immediately, he was respected. There was a lot of progress that was made. Local inroads, local high school coaches. Coach Puha, he absolutely is a big deal in the local recruiting scene. We just haven't seen results. 18 months, maybe the weakest group on the entire defense, and it looks like the biggest question mark going into this season. He has brought in 2 guys, 2 defensive tackles so far. Danny Saili, one of them, he's not here. The other one is Luke Tuamalatai. That's kind of it. There's been some other guys like, David Latu, John Tamoipeo, a walk-on. There just hasn't been a whole lot of success. It's tough. It's really tough. Semi Taulonga is very, very good. He's also undersized, but he plays with a maniacal effort. Very, very good player who would have been very good for BYU. This class isn't make or break based on Semi Taulonga not going to BYU. BYU is going to be fine and be able to find somebody. But they've got to find somebody. And frankly, they need more than one somebody at the defensive tackle spot. They need 2 or 3 somebodies because that group's only getting older, and that group in the room right now has a lot of question marks. I've got questions. I don't know if they're concerns yet. They might be, but I've got some serious questions about what Coach Pua's doing, what the plan is, and how he's going to be able to turn this recruiting class around at that defensive tackle spot. Maybe some of these defensive end, edge rusher types, maybe they grow into defensive tackles. Maybe that's the plan. But as of right now, I got some question marks about what's happening on the interior of BYU's defensive line. For that reason, I've got to put Coach Puha down at the bottom of the list. That's it. That's my power ranking so far. I'll throw up a graphic here so you can see them all right here, 1 through 10. That's kind of how I see it. I feel like I'm pretty educated. I talk to pretty well everybody that BYU recruits and a lot of guys that BYU doesn't. I hear things from high school coaches, from parents, from players. This feels like a pretty accurate list based on where things are at right now. That can change, and it will change. I'm anxious to see what BYU does in the coming weeks. Fall camp, training camp starts now. It's not fall, it's July. Training camp starts this week. Football is back. We're going to start talking about the nitty-gritty quarterback battles, right tackle battles, all those good things. Super excited to be here. Super excited you guys are spending this training camp and football season with me here on this channel once again. Once again, I'll drop a link to this hat because it's dope. Everybody needs it. And until next time, folks, give them hell. Go Cougs.